Thank you very much. And hi, everybody. It's amazing being here. Paola and I today are going to talk about communication in our field, addressing the use of online resources in general, and specifically social media. So we will focus on communication within the profession, how we share information with each other, and communication to the outside world, so to the general public. We live in the era of social media, and as well as other more traditional forms of online communication, social media has a big role in shaping our sector. Not only do they influence how book and paper conservation is perceived by the public and the other professional figures that work with us, but also they influence how we perceive ourselves and our profession. Is it possible for conservators to reach very large audiences? If yes, how are we going to do it without compromising with our professional ethics? Are we forever bound to before and afters and satisfying content? Or are there any other ways that we can capture the audience's attention? Finally, is what we show online a true representation of what conservation actually is? And if not, are there any consequences to this? So earlier this year, we circulated a questionnaire to gather information about the habits, the preferences, the views, worries, and opinions of book and paper conservators with regards to communication. And we were very determined to include as many conservators from as many countries and cultures as we possibly could, with the aim of bursting the bubble of the algorithm of online communication. So many of you will have answered that questionnaire, and we thank you very much for participating. Having said that, we were also very, very aware of the intrinsic biases and limitations in this research. First of all, we were aware of a linguistic bias. We asked questions in English. Therefore, many people that are either not native English speakers or are not very familiar with English will either have not responded at all or will have been limited in their capacity to express their exact thoughts. And a cultural, geographical bias. We shared a link to the questionnaire through the channels that we, as European Western conservators, knew about, like the AAC forum, the YADA website, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and everywhere we thought it would make sense to share. But these platforms don't reach everybody. There are countries with bans on many of the platforms that we use on a daily basis. And on the other hand, there are social media platforms that we don't use in our countries. How do we look for as conservators? How do we use online resources as a sector? And how do language, culture, and geography affect communication? We received responses from conservators in 38 countries. The majority are from European countries and from North America, followed by Oceania, Asian regions, the Middle East, and lastly, Africa. And we hope to be able to provide more details about the demographics and other data we were able to collect in an article for the other journal. But today we're going to give you a quick overview of our findings. So when conservators look for professional information or advice, they consult a variety of sources. Professional literature online is definitely a favorite, followed by colleagues in real life and literature available in person. But online forums, mailing lists, social media, and blogs seem also to be perceived as sources worth consulting. The majority, 63% of our responders, use social media both for professional and personal purposes. And also, we were very keen to hear from those who do not use social media, because they make a choice not to, because they're not interested. So we really appreciated receiving those responses too. The most popular reasons as to why conservators look for professional content online are keeping up to date with the sector in general, having a sense of what other conservators do, and looking for tips and advice. As per social media specifically, conservators consume professional content more than they produce. And when they create content, they do so occasionally, not as a regular planned occurrence. So this seems to suggest that there is a lot of demand that still needs to be fully met. No, I have too many animations here, and I'm going to skip to the end. Okay. So Instagram is a favorite platform for consuming professional content, followed by blogs and websites, YouTube and Facebook. The immediacy of the imagery, ease of use, and the personal viewpoint that it offers are winning points for Instagram, whereas blogs and websites and YouTube are liked because they offer more in-depth content. Instagram is also a favorite for creating professional content. It has high reach, it's easy to update, can be used with minimal captions, and it's the most used by others. Blogs and LinkedIn are runner-ups, the latter being perceived as a more professional platform with a professional audience, and the other for longevity of the content and the ability to share more formal and in-depth content again. The main aim of creating professional content is a very noble, raising awareness of the conservation profession, but also raising a profile of creating a personal portfolio, connecting with colleagues, and fulfilling a professional duty are very popular, sharing the runner-up position. Finally, what is the biggest disabler to sharing more online? Time. We have limited resources, and communication is not our profession. Plus, making our work marketable is not easy. I believe that many considerations could stem from this fact, including wondering whether, as a sector, we should make more use of communication professionals to make sure that our core professional messages are effective and go where we want them to go. Then there is fear of judgment and issues with copyright. Self-consciousness. Am I good enough to be out there, to put myself out? Technology sometimes is not helpful. And employers, sharing online is not in the job descriptions for many of us. So we ended the questionnaire asking to add anything the respondents wanted to add, and some issues and observations stood out. The first and most mentioned is the dilemma between sharing too much versus sharing too little, sharing or not sharing treatment details online. Treatment information and hands-on techniques are exciting and very interesting to viewers, but we fear that the public is going to misuse what they see, also possibly diminishing the professionalism of conservators. Equally, some feel there is lack of open sharing instead, which can either take the shape of a misguiding perfectionist attitude and even red taping by some institutions, like conservation seen through red-tinted glasses. Or it can take the shape of gatekeeping, like I'm keeping my professional secrets, or fear, or I should have pressed, no. Or fear of incurring into negative comments or reactions from peers. Envy, jealousy, and anger have been mentioned, as well as perpetuation of cliches and hierarchies. Second, social media is our chance to tell our own stories with our own voices. Someone commented, there is a sense of social media being underutilized by the conservation profession. The social media accounts that are the most followed are those that show extreme restoration examples and generally don't follow the code of ethics that most conservators would adhere to. At this point, I think it is important to acknowledge that if we look at a truly global scale, codes of ethics are not necessarily shared by all those that would identify under the definition of conservator restorer and do not necessarily cross certain geopolitical boundaries. Social media have exposed us to this more than before. Conservation versus restoration, the long-standing question. So I see on screen something that doesn't represent my practice and doesn't fit my code of ethics. But they still call themselves conservators, highlighting again, at least in some cases, cultural differences that reflect into the practice and remind us that we are still far from a truly global definition of what is conservation restoration and what it should do, and what the profession is like. Finally, there is a heartfelt sense of gratitude towards those who share. Many are benefiting from tips, advice, lectures, and from the sense of community and generosity that results. Online information is received as an essential tool for conservators that feel isolated because they have limited access to training opportunities or work in remote geographical areas or are in private practice. There is an appetite for more sharing and organized portals. Thank you.
We will, after these highlights from the questionnaire, we will try to give some basic consideration and advice taken from the world of web content communication and social media marketing. First, let me apologize to the translator. There will be some variations on the script, so you can blame my anxiety. We hope that this consideration and advice will be useful for everyone who wants to be involved in public engagement, awareness raising, and advocacy in our sector, and can be included into our daily practice. We will follow a very basic schedule. So we will start with the 6 W's, and then we will have 6 tips. We will start not with who, but we will start with why. So we will start talking about the purpose of our content. So what do we want to achieve by sharing our content? We can educate people, entertain them, or help our audience. In many cases, we can also achieve more than one goal, one purpose, with one single content. So we can also be able to entertain and educate at the same time, or help and entertain at the same time. Even if entertain seems to be the purpose that is more distant from our practice. You can think about gamification that is used in teaching, and also small things like quizzes or small posts and videos about curiosity on cultural heritage can be a good way to entertain, have a lighthearted tone, and in the same time educate or help our audience. Who do we want to talk to? Everyone is the only wrong answer. As conservators, we can usually choose between trying to talk with our peers or trying to talk to a more general public. Can be, if we are in private practice, our customers, or all the professionals that work in the field, or if we are in an institution, visitors of the institution. This choice will influence the language we choose, the tone of voice, the media we choose to use, and the type of content. For example, if we are in a small museum and we want to attract people from the nearby local visitors, we will use the local language, local cultural references, and a more light-hearted tone and a more accessible language. If we want to talk with our colleagues, we will use probably English, so we can reach our peers worldwide, and we will use a more technical terminology. Where shall I publish? Where my audience is. So I can use global data reports to find out the kind of people I want to reach, what kind of social media, what kind of web media communication tool uses more often, and also use analytics to narrow this research. The ideal thing is to find the point of connection between the tool that I feel comfortable using myself, or I feel comfortable learning to use, and the one that is more used by the audience I want to reach. In marketing, they usually create a persona, so they try to imagine a person, its name, age, job, what's his favorite food, his wishes, his complaints. So even if we cannot narrow down to this, it can be important in any case to have a recognizable and relatable voice. So trying to talk to a niche instead of trying to do something more generalist that can end into speaking to no one. Also, you can consider copyright issues and permanency of your content. Bear in mind that when you use social media, you're like a guest in someone else's house. So your content is hosted into a platform that has its own rules. So when you have a blog, a website, or a newsletter, you have more control on that. It can be usually both, so using a blog and then creating some small videos or some pictures to post on social media to redirect people to reading the more full content. This means making more time, effort into creating content, not necessarily. Okay, this is in Italian. You can roughly translate it as nothing goes to waste. The literal translator is of the oink meat, you don't waste nothing. It's come from the former word, which means that we can use what we already have because we already used to document everything that we do, so we can extract something from the conservation report that we do and use it on social media. We can extract what we do on our daily routine and use it on social media or web communication. And also we can use the same subject and transform it a little bit. A little piece can go on the social media, a more in-depth version can be on the blog, a more scientific work can be on a conference, like there's one in Halle. It doesn't have to be in real time. I can use the same content right now on a conference, and then after it's published, I can use it also on social media, for example. This is an example. In this case, Lucilla Renai did a more in-depth video on YouTube answering also the question, why do paper conservators always say tape is evil? And then she did an extract and highlight of 15 seconds video for Instagram on the same subject. The content that is usually more successful, let's say, is a content that it has a human touch. So we can stay professional, but usually people react better if they see the person behind the screen. Even if we are in institution, seeing the people working can be a great way. And also, you can see on an increasing number of people interested in seeing hands at work. Not even the final product, just the process. There is an increasing interest for videos on pottery, tapestry weaving. So you can put yourself into the social, not showing your face is not necessary, just your hands can be enough. Pictures and videos on social media can be more evocative than descriptive and scientific. So also something taken with your smartphone from an angle in which you can see your hands at work, even if it's not completely clear, the process can be something fascinating for the wider public, and if there are colleagues seeing your content, they can ask for detail in the comment and be engaged with your content. So you can, even if you narrow down to who you want to talk to, you can reach also people outside of that niche. Now, let's try to give 6 tips to boost conservation contents. The first one is that some contents and some formats usually works. Cats always work. Can you blame them? They're a magnificent creature. This one is from the Library of Congress. And also, small lists like 6 tips to boost conservation contents usually sparkle conversation and curiosity. You can stay professional even having a light-hearted tone. It doesn't mean you have to bring your pet to work or starting to claim 10 things you did. Nobody told you about this book, but you can still do something that can sparkle curiosity. You can choose what not to share. If you choose to share online, you can choose what to show about yourself and how to present yourself. For example, for my private practice, I decided to never present my work as an old-time, ancient job from another time. I hate it. We're not panda trying to avoid extinction. And also I chose never to make comparisons with other colleagues, present and past. Also, don't worry if you don't have a large audience. If you have a small audience that is engaged, that interacts with your contents, that comments, can be a great value and more valuable than the larger audience that doesn't interact with what you're posting. And also, small thing like a question sticker on Instagram can be a good way to connect with the audience, ask them, what do you want to know? And from these feedbacks, having new ideas for new content and understanding what the public wants to know. The content can have many forms. Doesn't have to be video, doesn't have to be pictures. For example, podcast listeners are now more and more anytime, and we already have some podcasts about conservation. This one is the C word, for example. And also you can start, if you want to try and share something, you don't have to create your own channel right away if you feel it's too much of an effort. You can start by being a guest, participate into collective initiatives. For example, the Book and Paper Gathering is a blog that usually hosts content from other people. An interview can be a way to start sharing content. Collaboration. In this case, you see a collaboration from Conservation Tips and Fritz Otto Buchbinder Instagram profiles. It can be a collaboration with the institution that owns the book or the artifact that they are conserving. So you can ask them if they want to share something about the conservation process. Usually they're willing to do so because they need to do communication as well. So you can have a cross-reference posting between your channels and the channels of the institution you're working for. And it can be occasional, doesn't have to be constant. We think that being the one that have the subject in our hands, it's important to be involved in communication, both if we are in private practice, then if we are in an institution. Even if in the institution there is people that know how to communicate, we still are the one that knows what to communicate. And if people in the web, for example, are hungry for this kind of content, it's important that they can find in their search also our voice. So that's our thought, and that's what we think communication and being involved in communication can be important. Thank you very much. You see, last thing, you see a QR code on this slide. You will access a document in which you will find all the references that were suggested on the questionnaire by other conservators and all the web references that you find on the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the public? Well, I'll start with one. Oh, this one? Go for it.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lenia Fernandes. I'm from Portugal and a PhD student and also a photograph conservator. I do some social media for Icon CC, the photographic materials group. So I'm interested, as you might imagine. Also, in regards to my PhD, I started to think what I could do to make it more interactive instead of just a subject that I'm doing by myself. When it comes to surveys and also the reaching other audiences and all that, I was wondering if you have any specific tips for how to reach publics outside of Europe and North America and so, because, yeah, as you might imagine, I would also like to make things as reachable as possible. So, yeah, if you can specify some tips, perhaps, regarding that. Thank you.
Okay, we can tell you a little bit how we did it. It's one way, it's not the only way. We had the same question, how do we reach, as Gloria said in the first part, we had this question, how do we reach people outside our bubble? And we try with what we had. So we started with asking our peers, do you know any people outside Europe? Can you reach other people outside Europe? We tried professional associations abroad, contacting them and asking them if they can share the questionnaire. And I think more generally it can be valuable, the advice that I gave, start with who do you want to reach, look for global data, that kind of audience, what tool, what platform uses more, and start there.
Yeah, if I can.
Yes.
If I can add anything, I would say it takes a lot of research. So start researching what's out there and go into the rabbit holes, and you will identify people. And this is something that we've done for the questionnaire. We identified the influencers that were key to reaching some more remote areas for us. And they can open up for you things that you don't think they exist. And so I would say start with researching and then go straight to people and ask them to help you and give you advice or how to get where you want.
Yeah, they are usually very willing to help.
Thank you. More questions? Yeah, there's one over there.
Hi, Stefani Signorello, Welcome Collection, owner of the Book and Paper Gathering together with other colleagues. It's more a comment than anything else. There is always a constant effort from our point of view to try and make people, just communicate amongst themselves. We just, we publish once a month. We try not to overwhelm people. People don't often comment because they're scared, I think, of being judged. Yeah. And I think we should stop that, because only when we start communicating we can see that we are all in the same boat. Mm-hmm. And we all need to, share, really. So please, let's start doing that without any fear of judgment. Let's stop that. Yeah. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more, really.
Yeah.
Comments? I have one. How do you think this is impacting us? As the editor of JPC, I find it more and more difficult to get people to sit down and write and publish the materials. Do you think this is helping so that people who engage with the social media can also think about how to then transform that into a full publication, or is impeding, as in, I've done that, I don't have time for the full paper to publish that?
I think there are two different things, and they are also complementary. I know you are waiting for my paper. It will arrive. They are complementary because with social media you can reach a different audience than with a publication, and also the in-depth of what you can say is completely different. It can help, because if you post something online and you see there is a lot of curiosity, maybe people will comment, wow, I want to know more. Did you have something published about it? I just want to read it. Maybe people will be more willingly to do so. So I think it can help. It doesn't have to be in competition.
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a competition. Mm-hmm. I just hope that maybe, helping with when you think about how to present things in small chunks, because of what you normally do, then can help you to prepare the whole thing for the full. Because that's what I normally do it when I need to write a paper. If I have done a presentation before, it's much easier. Yeah. So maybe we can think about writing something so that people can engage in social media, but also think about the publication and put it together as something they can work with.
I also can say that I found through some of the profiles that we shared, for example, Conservation Tips, we are huge fans of that channel. We found so many interesting tips, and also from the profiles of other colleagues sharing their work, we found something new, something interesting, and everything can sparkle new idea, innovation, and also links for research.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there is one comment, Leila.
Hi, Leila Sauvage, University of Amsterdam. Thanks for your talk. I think it's very enlightening. I just wonder, because I'm still a conservator, and I wonder about long term. So what happens to the discussion that are going on now, like in the future? Are people going to see what we are interested in? What's the long-term future of this very ephemeral communication? Do you have ideas?
Well, it's... vuoi rispondere tu? Vuoi rispondere?
vai.
Okay. On one side, you have something that is quite ephemeral. On the other side, once something is on the internet, it's impossible to take it out. So I think people will still be interested in what we say. It's not, let's say, I don't think the content that we can produce is so influenced by fashion and trends. It's more durable in the time. It's in the nature of our work. And also, I think I've seen some contents from YouTube, for example, when I look for things related to book and paper conservation. It can be also videos from 8 years ago and still be relevant. So I think it depends on the form. And but it can be more permanent. Bear in mind that, for example, if social media decided to shut down, you lose everything. So if you have something like a website or a blog in which you are the owner of the domain, you have more control on this. Just this to bear in mind. But yeah, it seems to, even if it's more ephemeral, it seems to stay forever almost in some way. So I don't think it will disappear so quickly. Of course, what we do will interest a niche of people, not everyone, but we do not want to reach everyone. We want to reach people who can be interested.
One more comment.
Hi. Thank you for the brilliant talk. It was really good. I was wondering, sometimes conservators don't really know what they look for, I feel. And I, for myself, using Instagram, not as frequent, but trying to, I feel like sometimes I've seen things I wasn't aware of I need. I see something and I was like, oh, I want that. I want to find out the person who did this kind of book cradle, this type of display case, this kind of neat little hanging technique. So I find that is a very helpful tool, also in combination with publications, to make content relevant again that was probably published 5-10 years ago, to make people interested in finding out where exactly that was published and going back to the blogs and reading more in depth. So finding the source, of those. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. You can, when the communication is well done, you can cross something. That's the power of algorithms in social media. You can cross something that you can be interested in, even if you were not looking for it, and then you can search and find something else. Exactly. That's a good point. Thank you for saying it.